is the Writer's Almanac for Tuesday. It's the 3rd of November, 2020. Today is Election Day. Millions of people across the country going to the polls, elect legislators and judges and sheriffs and school board members and, of course, the president. The first federal election under our Constitution held in 1788. Only 11% of eligible voters voted. To be eligible, you had to be a white male property owner, but different states had trouble defining what a property owner was, so there was confusion. And in order to vote in that first election, 1788, voters had to travel many miles to the nearest polling place, which was often a tavern, the candidate standing outside, and in many precincts there were no ballots. People just announced their votes to the sheriff in a loud, clear voice, and then they stood by the candidate they had voted for, who usually offered them something to drink. It wasn't until 1820 that American voters in every state could vote in the presidential election. Before that, many states just let the legislature choose the presidential electors who would cast their votes for president. And even after the popular election had come in, different states held Election Day on different dates. The first uniform Election Day did not take place until 1845 on November the 4th. For the first 50 years of elections in this country, only about 15% of the adult population was eligible to vote. Poor people were not, nor were women, and many African Americans were prevented from voting throughout the South until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was Mark Twain who said, if there's any valuable difference between a monarchist and an American, it lies in the theory that the American can decide for himself what is patriotic and what isn't. I claim that difference. I am the only person in the 60 millions that is privileged to dictate my patriotism. It's the birthday of the playwright Terence McNally, 1939, St. Petersburg, Florida, whose first big success was in 1987 with Frankie and Johnny at the Clair de Lune, story of a cook and a waitress who find love in the diner where they both work. And it was on this day, 1957, a little dog named Laika was launched into space aboard Sputnik, the first animal to orbit the Earth. Scientists knew that she would not come back, and so one of them took her home to play with his children a few days before the launch. She died only a few hours after the launch, and after the fall of the Soviet Union, one of the scientists said he regretted having sent the dog up. He said, the more time passes, the more I'm sorry about it. We shouldn't have done it. We did not learn enough from this mission to justify the death of the dog. Here's a poem by Emily Dickinson, a poem entitled As Imperceptibly as Grief. As imperceptibly as grief the summer lapsed away, too imperceptible at last to seem like perfidy, a quietness distilled as twilight long begun, or nature spending with herself sequestered afternoon. The dusk drew earlier in, the morning foreign shone, a courteous yet harrowing grace as guest that would be gone. And thus, without a wing or service of a keel, our summer made her light escape into the beautiful. As Imperceptibly as Grief, poem by Emily Dickinson. That's the Writer's Almanac, funded by donations from listeners like you, now available on PRX for distribution by your local radio station. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.